My name is Aubrey Flynn. I am the Vice President of Digital for Combs Enterprises. Accountable for all of the digital strategy and execution across our brands. You may be familiar with some of them. Revolt, Bad Boy Records, Ciroc Ultra Premium, and a host of others. And we're here today with a group of very talented, intelligent individuals who know a lot about content and content marketing. And content marketing today is really important, and we're going to get into exactly why that is. But before we do so, I wanted to give each of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. And then we're just going to have a conversation about the state of content marketing, how they became great innovators in the space, and how we can share some of that information with this group for those of you that are interested in taking similar paths. All right, so if we can start.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Alex, and I'm the founder and creator of Boss Babe Inc., which is a lifestyle brand for millennial glamorous women who are not afraid to kind of show their femininity in business. I have been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old, and I was insecure about how I was being perceived because I wanted to be totally fashionable and dress like Beyonce, but still be taken seriously. And I felt like that was happening a lot. I think it's happening a lot with entrepreneurs. So we create that creative space where it's like, look, just because we're, fashionably different or whatever, we're still professionals. So that's what I do.
Thank you. Everybody give it up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Martinez, and I am a multimedia journalist. I am the founder of a site called Ain't I Latina. Pretty much, I highlight and celebrate being Afro-Latina, like myself. A lot of people are unaware of what that identity looks like and what it means. And so essentially, the site fills that void in showcasing what that is in women that embody Afro-Latina identity. I also work on content strategy. I write for a few publications such as NBC, Viva La, Latina, Cosmo for Latinas, and previously I was the technology editor at Black Enterprise.
All right.
Hey everyone, my name is Ross Simmons. I'm an entrepreneur out of Canada. Flew in on Saturday, excited to be here in New York, first time. I am an Eagles fan, so don't kill me. But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I run 3 companies. I have a consultancy called Foundation, which works with B2B brands and startups. I also spun off an app called Crate, which was featured on Product Hunt 2 weeks ago, which is going extremely well. And I'm also the founder of a company called Hustle and Grind. You can check that out on Instagram, Hustle Grind Co. Those are my hustles.
So thank you all for being here, and thank you all for being here. So we're going to jump right into the conversation. So, expert content. Nielsen says that expert content is more effective than branded content or user reviews. So what does that mean? That means that as the content and that has sort of become ubiquitous across the web is getting received via various devices, desktops, tablets, mobile devices, so on and so forth, we have to now, as marketers, understand what's the most effective way to get our messages across to our target audiences. So expert content, according to the data, is actually the most effective way to get those messages across, according to some recent research. Now, what does that mean? When you think about branded content is what a brand would normally put on television, or you might see it in a Facebook feed, a sponsored post, so on and so forth. Another type of content are user reviews. So user reviews can come from anybody. User reviews are things that you might see on Yelp when you're looking for a restaurant, or or Best Buy when you're looking to buy an electronic device. So it's very important that us as marketers understand why expert content is so important. It comes with a degree of when you have an expert, that expert brings an experience to the table. They bring an unbiased perspective to the table, right? And these are experts, and we're going to delve into what makes them experts, how they became experts, and hopefully after we leave here today, each one of us will have a better understanding of expert content and how to become expert content marketers. So, first question. Did you always know you wanted to be a marketer, right? And how did you first come to that decision that, yes, I am going to become an actual marketer with this content that I'm creating?
No, I did not think that I was going to become a marketer. I mean, I think if you would have asked me 3 years ago if I would have, been able to market in a viral way on social media, I would have probably said no. And because I didn't really understand what marketing was. And I think the definition of marketing is changing overall because of the internet space and how business is being done. So, but I realized it was happening when there was a demand without even like a product there. Like the message that I was giving out was so prominent that girls were like, I want to be a boss babe. Tell me how to be a boss babe. And I was like, whoa. So it was like, okay. So.
Got it.
Yeah, and I would co-sign that in the sense that I never envisioned it as, oh, I'm a marketer, I'm a storyteller, I'm a content creator, and I think that that is the foundation of anything that's going to, can you hear me? That's the foundation of anything that is going to have traction online, is the story. How are you packaging it? How are you sharing that with others?
Right.
And for me, my background is in journalism, but as soon as I entered like post-graduation,
Mike.
thank you.
There we go.
Once I, graduated, most opportunities were online. And I just kind of was very curious as to how do I brand myself online? And that's kind of where I started seeing, wow, like people are gravitating towards the content that I am creating through my own personal social media channels. So I think it's essentially storytelling, and that bubbles into marketing.
Got it.
Test. All right.
There we go.
We'll try. All right. So you guys remember that movie Boomerang? Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, I'm going to be a marketer. 'Cause that movie was sick, and I was like, all right, I want to be like this guy. But in all seriousness, I kind of fell into it accidentally. I ran a fantasy football blog while I was in school. Just was creating content, started getting that content featured all over the web. People started listening to a 22-year-old living in his mom's basement about this stuff, and I was like, okay, if people want to hear me talk about football, I'm sure they want to hear me talk about other things as well. So I started writing about marketing, and it kind of went from there. So when did I realize I wanted to be a marketing expert? When I started to get paid, I'd say.
It's very important, right? Getting paid. So key takeaway, you don't have to know right now that you want to be a marketer. This is something that's happening very organically for a lot of us throughout the course of our careers. I think marketing boils down to, can you get a specific message or piece of content in front of a targeted audience and get that audience to participate in a way that's positive for whatever your outcome is, whether that's a sale, a view, a registration, so on and so forth. So thank you. Great answers, team. Next question. How do you feel about the phrase content is king? Let's start with you, Ross.
I love that question. Content is king is something that's being thrown around every blog, every website that you visit. And I like to go back to this kind of Wu-Tang reference of Cream. Everybody knows cash rules everything around me. Recently, there's been this huge outpour of people screaming content rules everything around me. And I fell into the trap of believing that and thinking, okay, if we create more content, then people will come. But I believe in a different philosophy, which is the idea that content isn't king and distribution is. So I like the acronym DREAM more than anything. Distribution rules everything around me. Because if you create a post, if you create an infographic, if you create some sort of content, and that isn't actually being shared, if nobody is actually consuming that content, then you're kind of going down the same line of if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't make an impact. It doesn't if you can't hear it. So you need to have distribution for your content or you're not going to be able to make an impact. So I don't think content is king. I think that content is a fundamental, important part of business. But I think we have to understand that the distribution of your content is ultimately king.
So I would say, though, I do believe distribution channels are super important, but for me, I would still agree with the phrase "content is king," but I would add "good content is king," because even if you share content, whether it's through social media channels, whether you're pushing it in folks' face, if it's not good, they're not going to click on it. And I think a lot of brands will try to do this whole clickbait thing where it's like, oh, you think you know where you're clicking on, and then you click on it, and it's like not what you intended, and then you sever that relationship with your audience. So I think you have to know what your audience wants, and then create content generated around those needs, and then furthermore after that, put it in the right places. So socializing it, sharing it through your email list and things of that nature. So the key is good content.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to having that great content from the beginning, but then you have to get that content out, or it's going to be for naught. Like, I can create the best infographic I've ever seen, but if I'm the only person who ever sees that content, it was for nothing. So you have to ensure that that content is distributed to the right person, because it all comes down to that one tipping point. If all of you have, on average, 356 friends on Facebook, and I reach all of you, and then the one person who has 5,000 friends shares it, then my content has another level, to a chance to go to the next level. Yeah, I agree.
I think I agree with what you guys are saying. I think one of the things people don't really understand about social media and online marketing is that at the end of the day, it's really just effective communication. So it's not, content is king, sure, whatever, but I think it's more communication is king and queen, or, both. But because it's a new platform, right? We're connecting with people in this very virtual way, and that's different. But at the end of the day, the main focus should be just trying to get that click on the other end. So the person who you're speaking to hears you, like you're saying with the tree.
Who are some of the people that you've met throughout this journey that have been role models for you in the space?
Well, James Altucher was one. I was just telling him. I found him a few years ago when I was really struggling with where I wanted to go in my career. But who have I met? I don't know. I spoke to Miss America. She's nice. We have a lot of followers that, a lot of just amazing women who really love the brand. I think sometimes what's so amazing about a brand that actually captivates people is that people want to help. People want to work for you. We had Sharon Winter, who's on the Startup U on ABC. She just contacted us and was like, hey, can I do a class for you? And I'm like, sure. So it's amazing who I find sometimes.
Janelle, any folks that you've run into that's helped you along the way?
Yeah, I would say I've gotten the most out of my fellow entrepreneurs. So people that are out here hustling with me, those that I think, of course, I have in a traditional sense, like a mentor, but I find that I get the most from conversations with my fellow entrepreneurs that are like, oh, I've just gone through that and you're going through that, and they just impart, and give you that information as far as not making that mistake that they're making. So essentially, I've met a lot of great people, of course, through Ain't I Latina. I think most recently we did our Afro Latinas Who Rock Awards, and I was able to meet, for example, Nadia Lopez, who is out here, does amazing work in Brooklyn and with our next generation. And just being able to connect with everyday change agents and makers, that's been the most fulfilling. But I also feel like I get a lot from just my fellow entrepreneurs imparting their information and knowledge on me.
Yeah, and that's really important because this is a new space. So they're not a lot. I mean, we definitely have books that that people are writing, right? That experts are writing. But it's very important that we, as content creators and marketers, kind of learn from each other, because the space is evolving rapidly every day. The social networks are changing. The way people are consuming content is changing. Absolutely. So, definitely connecting with the thought leaders in the space on an everyday basis, whenever the opportunity presents itself, is really important as we become better and better at this content development and distribution. That being said, let's get into the next question here. So, how did you learn some of the tricks of the trade, being that this is a new sort of emerging field of content distribution and creation? Whoever wants to take that.
For me, I've essentially learned by just throwing myself into it. I think the best way to learn is by getting your hands messy, making mistakes, and just pushing through. One of the things that I do every year is I kind of set up myself for a mantra or some type of experiment that I'm going to run. So 2 years ago, my experiment was on this website called SlideShare. I focused on solely creating content on that channel, and then I was able to become an expert in that. I've been able to generate more than 800,000 views solely by experimenting and trying this channel. This last year, my experiment has been with Instagram. Been able to build a channel up to 50,000 followers, and that's solely been an experiment, so to speak. So for me, it's like you got to throw yourself into these places where you're unfamiliar, learn things, don't be afraid to fail, and at the end of it, you'll come out better off.
So Ross, before we go to one of the other panelists, over $250,000 of revenue from tactics on SlideShare. That's really impressive, man. Independently, what would you attribute some of that success to? Like, what was some of the tricks there?
So that would have been last year. I did $275K in revenue from leads and clients that I had generated from SlideShare, doing marketing consultancy. So $250,000. I'm my only employee. The way that I was able to do it was by understanding what people wanted. So I know that people in the B2B community who were looking for marketing solutions were looking for insights and information on how they could leverage things like content marketing to drive success. Startups were wondering, okay, how can we use content to drive new leads? So I created the content that would answer their questions. I think a lot of people create content for the sake of creating content. What we need to do is we need to create content that fulfills a need. Think about your audience, think about who you're targeting, and then develop content that they will want to print off or bookmark so they can go back to it over time. When you're able to do that, you'll be able to find success, and that's what I was able to do.
Yep. And Janelle, wow, Cosmo, one of the top 11 Latinas to follow. What do you attribute some of that success to?
I would have to say just being authentic. And I know that sounds really simple, but when it comes down to like interests, thankfully the market that I'm in, being that my specific audience is Afro-Latinas, we're not monolithic, we're not all the same, but I am my client, I am my audience. So a lot of times I have the, insider scoop. I just kind of, hey, what am I interested in? But I also too will tap those within my circle that identify that I think would be interested, that come to the site, etc. But when it comes to platforms, I also am specific on ones that I tackle. I'm not on Pinterest, even though that's a great platform. But for me, a lot of lead generation or engagement comes from Twitter. So that's the platform that I'm best at, and that's what I'm going to be, doing a lot of my conversations on. So I think that it's being authentic, and then of course knowing where my audience is. If it's Twitter, then that's where we're at.
Understood. And Alex, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, from real professionals, really successful professionals in the industry, like, how do I grow my followers, right? Now, you have been able to grow your Boss Babes following on Instagram to over 100K, getting over 100,000 subscriptions on your website. Like, what are some of the tricks to the trade that have helped you be so successful?
Okay, so what I want to say is that I think that if we take a step back at kind of what's happening right now in the world. So what helps me, and this seems a little abstract, but bear with me. Like, I like to think about how right now the rules are that there kind of are no rules. Like, we have so much freedom and access through the internet, and if you look at the parallels of how entrepreneurship was, like, say, the early 1900s during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, right? There's a lot of shady stuff happening. There was kind of no rules as far as how it was to build a business and to, monopolize, which was happening. And I look at what's happening now with companies like Facebook and Google. Obviously, those are huge examples, but it's fair game right now. Like, I don't see how this amount of opportunity is going to be as available in the next 50 to 100 years. Like, I know that seems kind of weird, but it's a way to kind of help put things into perspective. So as far as how are we doing it, I think we're just doing it. Like, it's so new that it's not really enough of a strategy. I think the only consistent strategy is that communication element, where it's like one thing we're all doing is effective communication with our audience. So, yeah.
Got it. Next question. So, African Americans, Hispanics tend to over-index on mobile and social. Uh, and we're starting to see brands, mainstream brands even, take a lot of the colloquialisms, a lot of the slang, and incorporate it into their communications and go viral, get a lot of press from that. What are your thoughts on the opportunities and the challenges of being a minority in this field? Does it help you? Does it hinder you? Interested in your perspective on that.
I do think on social there's a lot of opportunities. For example, we know, yes, we totally over-index, and we've even seen those that are using Twitter, for example, effectively be hired by BuzzFeed, be hired by a lot of new media companies and brands. However, there's always that risk of appropriation, unfortunately, because it's, I don't want to say the Wild Wild West, but it's open terrain. There's nobody that's going to catch if you took a tweet without crediting it to someone or crediting their work. We have unfortunately seen instances of that, and we've seen it on larger scales with big brands. But I would say outside of those instances, there are a lot of opportunities. But what I will say about social, it's great, but when it comes down to ownership, if let's say Twitter crumbled tomorrow, not likely to happen, but if it did, or another platform, I think when it comes to content, you have to think about what actually do you own. And this is something that I'm actively working on now. We own our email subscribers, And so when you think about targeting and marketing your content, you have to think that granular as far as ownership. But as I think on a larger scale, to get back to your question, for me, I've primarily and intentionally chosen to work with communities of color that are reflective of myself, and I've seen a lot of opportunities come that way. But with anything, there can be challenges.
All right. So I'd love to open up the floor for questions if we have time. All right. Any questions for our panelists?
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for offering and sharing with us. My question is around your content and what you charge for and what you deliver for free. So how have you guys made the determination about what I'm going to give for free and then what I'm going to charge for?
So for me, I give away a lot for free. If you check out my blog, if you check out Elite Daily, all of these different sites, I'm constantly creating content just to pass it out there to provide information, inspiration. The approach that I take is I try to give at least like 90% and then take with 10. So if 90% of my content is being published for free, then 10% is going to be charged. The only content that I currently charge for is my books, the content marketing guide, as well as the Hustle Manifesto, which is how to escape the 9-to-5 in 6 months or less. So those are the only two pieces that I charge for.
I would say that's definitely something you're going to have to kind of balance on your own, because we all have our own guidelines on that. But what's happening is that customers are just becoming more picky in general because there's so much of a selection, and you're competing with guys like him, right, who are giving so much free content. So, and the internet is one of those places where it's like, even if it feels like, oh my God, I should be charging for this, it never works like that. What's really happening is if you can show people how much value you can give them for free, they just trust you. They just know it's like they're already buying your stuff in their head because they trust you enough at that point. So, and it's gonna feel weird. Like, I'll admit, I remember like feeling like whoa, but yeah.
One quick site that I will plug, gumroad.com. If you're looking to sell like digital materials, check out that site. You can easily just upload a PDF and you can sell your products for whatever you want.
Hello, hi. I'm DJ Ben Amin from Fambro Show, and thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
And the question was trying to ask by you earlier, but I need some more like expounding on it. It was asked how do you go from 1,000 followers on Instagram to 100,000? And I know you said it's something like, well, we just did it. And that's, I mean, a good answer because it is a wild, wild west type situation. But a lot of people can just provide content, can tweet, can post Instagram, and they're not going to get to 100,000 followers. So how could you?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go in on this because this
You
is
need the secrets.
this is the question of all questions. Here are a few things, very concrete. One is trends. Trends. If you guys know, oh my God, right? Why are you lying? So that guy's life is changing in the span of what, 1 to 2 months? And that's a trend. So if you can ride the waves, like the internet has currents, it has cultural currents. And if you ride the wave, like if, one of my favorite memes was Kermit, that ain't none of my business though. Oh my God, I was just reading about how there was an Instagram account who named the account that ain't none of my business and had grew the account to 130,000 followers within 4 days because he named it that account. So that's a cheat code right there. Ride the trend. What you were saying about slang, Netflix and chill, that's another one. Like for Boss Babe, we did build an empire and chill. So it's like, it's putting your little 2 cents on the trends. I feel like that really can bring a lot of engagement. It also adds to the cool factor. And we see it a lot with even big brands like AT&T and their commercials. They're like, when selfies was a thing, like now all these big kind of boring corporate companies are like, selfies, yeah, like emojis, yeah, So you want to get in while it's still cool. Obviously, you don't want to outdate yourself, which takes like 2 weeks on the internet to outdate yourself. But that's definitely one of the cheat codes I would offer that I use.
One of the cheat codes that I would offer is leverage people who have a bigger following than you. There's this thing called Shout for Shout on Instagram, S for S, if you ever see it. Reach out to people who have those 100,000 followers and try to get a shout out from them. Brands are doing it all the time. They go out and they hire influencers, people who are fashionable like Aubrey, and they actually reach out and they send them product, and then they get them to take photos with the product for a small fee, but they also get that product for free. That's called influencer outreach, and that's happening every single day. I've been a part of a lot of campaigns where hundreds of thousands of dollars have been transacted just because people wanted this lady who has 20,000, 200,000 followers to take a picture with her product. You can do the same thing if you're starting up. You find those people who are targeting an audience similar to you, and then you get them to give you shout-outs. If you're familiar with a company called Founder Mag, they have about 400 and some thousand followers on Instagram. They shout out my company, Hustle and Grind, all the time because I built a relationship with Nathan, the founder. So you want to find those people who have those significant followings and then leverage them.
Also think, in short, I agree with both what was said. Never underestimate the power of analytics and data. So there are tools out there, that are free, of course, some that are for pay that you should, look into. I think even, for example, with Facebook, they provide, basic analytics, but look to see what's trending, like what peak time, what time was people engaging with your content. So in addition to, getting advocates and shout outs and things like that, also to look at data to dictate, okay, on Monday at 4 p.m., thousands of people are looking at it at this point, so you can capitalize on those peak times that people are engaging with your content.
And because this is such an interesting question for folks, I feel the urge to jump in here. Three F's: fun, fame, and fortune. All right? If your conversation is fun, people are going to want to participate, whether it's a meme, just a clever hashtag, so on and so forth. As far as fame is concerned, people love the retweet. They love the repost. Even if you don't have a ton of followers, getting reposted by someone just feels special, especially when it's someone you don't know, right? So that fame, especially if you have a platform like a website, a blog, that can give someone some additional value, some additional awareness online, that's real value for people out there, for marketers out there, for fans. And last, fortune. If you can find a way to incentivize your audience to participate in the conversation, whether it be through some sort of contest that comes with a prize or a sweepstakes, or just a promotional item. People love free stuff, right? I know I do.
Yes.
So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. The 3 F's. Any other questions?
You guys have about 10 minutes left, and we have a question back here. My name is Isaiah Campbell from Benjamin Franklin and the Future Project. But I have two questions for you guys. So the first question is, with your content, did you have like a someone or some situation which inspired you to make this content?
Yeah, I'll definitely would say that was the case for me. My whole platform is designed around the fact that growing up, I didn't know that Ashley Banks from Fresh Prince was Afro-Latina. Like for me, content was important. I've always been inquisitive, always loved engaging and seeing things on TV and magazines, but there's something to be said when content resonates with you on a personal level. And so for me, I was waiting for other sites, honestly, to do it. I was like, well, Latina, they could build out an Afro-Latina section of the site, or, other platforms could have done it. But when I saw that there was room to not even capitalize, but really, yeah, on it in the sense of like filling a void, I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And so quickly people were attracted to it because there are so many people that fall in that identity that folks don't even know about and always wanted to have something represented. So there's a very personal connection with my brand for me and a lot of the people that engage with that content.
I definitely have a similar story. Niche, right now, having a niche audience is so liquid as far as how to get people engaged. Like that's how you stick your hand out there in the social media world and actually get engagement, is you get really specific. If I started a company that just was for entrepreneurs, I'd be dealing with such a broad audience that I don't think I would have been able to get that very, concentrated engagement. If I did a website or Instagram site for female entrepreneurs, still I don't think it would have clicked the way it did. It was the fact that I did it for young, glamorous ones. Like the fact that I say that, boom, everyone in this room knows exactly. Either like if it's you, you're thinking it's you, or if it's not you, you're thinking of someone who you would tell it to about. So that it's like a magnet when you get more specific.
Yeah, for me, the inspiration came from a combination of two things. One, I've always been an entrepreneur ever since I was selling do-rags out of my locker when I was in junior high, and always just loved it. So I started writing about it. And on top of that, I wanted to see more people like me in boardrooms. So I said, okay, I'm going to start creating content that resonates with the community. If you see me in a boardroom, I might drop a Drake reference. That's because I'm going to stay real and stay true to who I am. And I want that to be seen in my content that I'm creating as well. And then on the flip side, the content about marketing, I want to make money. So that's why I create that content, because I know it pushes the needle.
Thanks for the question.
My name is Najee Tyler. This question is for Aubrey. I know
Yes,
you
sir.
work with Sean Combs, and I just wanted to know, how is it managing so much social content that you guys push out all the time?
3 words: tired gets fired. Don't sleep, man. Work on the weekends. No, I'm just playing. You gotta go the extra. You gotta go the extra mile. You gotta go the extra mile. Mr. Combs is one that pushes for innovation on a daily basis. So he may say something to the effect of, "Oh, you guys are doing a great job." And if you hear that, mind you, that's a really, really big thing, because it doesn't happen very often. But the very next day, what was great yesterday is no longer great. Today is a new day. We have to innovate. We have to find new ways to talk to people. We have to be disruptive. So always like holding yourself to just the next level, the next standard, pushing yourself I'm sure if you follow him on Instagram, you see motivation and inspiration is a big part of the conversation. So it's definitely working really tirelessly to pursue your craft and pursue your dream, and it's going the extra mile. There's somebody out there that wants it just as bad, if not more, than you. Are you going to let them outwork you? Mr. Combs may not be the best. I think I've heard him say this. He may not be the best, dancer or producer or rapper even, but you can never take away his hustle. His hustle, you cannot beat that. I don't know anybody that works as hard as him. So that would be the thing that I've taken away in terms of getting the content out there, is tirelessly looking for the next opportunity to create something new. You know, never settling for what the standard is and always trying to be ahead of the curve. Does that answer your question? All right. So unfortunately, we're out of time. We love to kick it longer, but thank you, panelists.
Thank you.